4. Do 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 do. Pow pow pow. All right, we rolling live from the wasteland. This is Freedom Phil, and hey, what's going on? A guy actually asked a good question. He's like, "Well, do you recommend city vanning or county vanning?" And this just depends on your situation. I just want to go over some tactics. If you're going to do van life, things that I've done in the past that worked out for me, and just kind of an outlook on the way to handle it. This is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. And why do I say that? Because to be real about it, if you're watching videos at regular speed, why? The name of the channel is literally an instruction of what to do in life. If I upload this, you should be watching at 1.75. Let's get into it. I'm not sure how this is going to sound because I got some video game that's still playing in the background. When it comes to vanning, I've done a myriad of different vanning types. You'll be like, well, what do you mean? When I first started doing van life, I was more of a county vanner, and I'd come into town, but it was less distance, to go all the way to someplace I could afford rent than it was to be a van lifer. Like when I gave up my Siberian Husky way back in the day, when I came back to the West Coast, because I didn't really see any real jobs. If I'd known way back then, and let's go over a few pro tips first. If you're thinking of van life, ask yourself, could you be a trucker? Could you do OTR trucking? Now, it's not for everybody, but it's a free apartment on wheels, and you see the whole country, no rent, no utilities, no problems. So it's like you could have a van life situation at the terminal. So when you get back, you just grab your van and you go party. And then when you're out there driving truck, you're seeing the country and you're saving money. But then the other one is that, okay, are you in a city that's a little too hectic? You got some friends that you could just pay like $100, maybe $200? Because if let's say you're making really good money, but you could pay to be able to park on their property. Hell, some cases, if there's somebody who needs like yard work or basic things done, like someone's an old person, you just basically help them out with some of their stuff. And then, you get to park there. Basically you do a little bit of maintenance. I've done that before too. I had a buddy who, she had a back issue, but she had a kind of a hobby farm ranch. She had like a stallion, a donkey, a mare that was a bitch all the time. I mean, she wasn't a bad horse for people. She just really loved flirting with that mare and then fucking kicking at him. Total fucking tease. And then a whole flock of sheep that she would do dog training on the weekends. And I parked up there at her place for about a year and a half, nearly 2 years, before I went OTR. Now, I had done van life before that. When I was a garbage man, I had this technique, and I always recommend, because you never want to stay in the same spot too long. You don't want to become a normal fixture. You don't want to become that guy. And I'm not kidding when I say that, because a lot of people lose the respect for the fact that somebody else pays a mortgage and rent. They don't want to see some fucking freeloader all the time. Also, you don't want to let people know where you're at. You don't. People say, where are you going to park tonight? He says, I'll figure that out when I get to it. That's the answer you always give. And you know why? It's none of their fucking business. People know where you're at, then they can fuck with you. Now, most of the people that ask you aren't going to fuck with you. But drug addicts, bored redneck, your inbred cousin redneck fuckers, blah, blah, blah. Your drug addicts, your teenagers. Sometimes these people will do stupid shit to do stupid shit. Drug addicts might be trying to, steal gas or, try to break in. You remember back when people would steal stereos? They probably still do in some places. Remember back when people used to take the faceplate off their stereo so people wouldn't steal it? Yeah, that tells you're in a good community, by the way. Go with a cheaper stereo. I used to have a toggle switch for a Durr brand stereo. That way, if I wanted to just listen to my stereo without having the key in the ignition, flip the toggle switch, Durr brand, baby. It was a good stereo, by the way. And you want to park in a different spot every night, but you need to know your territory. You really do. You really need to know your fucking territory before you get into van life. For one thing, sometimes church parking lots are okay places to park, but don't be there when the church is going on, unless you're going to church. Like you stay, let's say you're a Christian, and the night before you just park there, like everybody knows you're a van lifer. You're like, yeah, van lifer to believe in the Lord or whatever, So for Saturday night, you park there, and then basically, who knows, maybe even Sunday, but you don't want to become that guy. So you park on the off days. Because, I'm going to be honest about it. Most people, for all their, saying, oh, Christianity, I believe in the way of the Lord, most of them are normies. And they're going to think, hey, there's some guy in a van there, my car, or I feel somewhat discomfort. Therefore, they'll get all weird about it, and what will end up happening is that they'll call the cops. Because, my God, what about the children? Yeah, that's what Jesus would do, by the way. So you want to park in some spots, you want to learn your territory, your turf. Where are no-go zones? No joke, where are no-go zones if you're going to be city vanning? Remember, you only stay one night, and then you move on, and you just rotate the spots. Any place that looks like Tweaker Town, where there's a lot of drug addicts, is probably problematic. I'm not kidding. There's a lot of good spots where I used to park that got ruined by a bunch of either... And by the way, there is a difference between a van lifer and a homeless fucker in a vehicle. There's a massive difference. Van lifers build systems of ways of living. They have strategies. For them, this is not a temporary thing. It is something that they actually do and improve on. It's like a fish. There's a guy who goes out and eats a fish that he bought at the store, and there's a guy that goes out and catches a fish. Van lifers are a catch a fish guy. You go to some of these spots where there used to be good places to park, and rednecks go and, tear up the grass or something, or people go dump garbage. They're camped there and they just throw their cans and their garbage wherever they're at. Their cigarette butts, the junkie needles, and that's why there's ecology blocks all over the place. Now, ecology blocks with signs that say, day use only. I have watched a lot of my habitat on the West Coast fucking disappear because of the bum apocalypse that came out of Seattle. And I've seen a lot of those fentanyl benders around. The crackheads were replaced by... We really didn't have a huge crackhead population where I grew up. There were crackheads, but most of them were living in apartments. Because you used to be able to afford... So some of the junkies you see out there, when you're out van lifing or you're bumming change or whatever, because I bum change. I either drive truck or I bum change. I love bumming change. I'm good at it. It's fucking... Yeah, it's a rush. It's like fishing, but except for... I leave with like hundreds of dollars. I'm also a migratory bum when I do it. I come through, I bum change, and I move on to the next town. Strategically driving from place to place. Making thousands of dollars for shaking my ass and having a cute dog. And what I'm going to get at with this is that the places that have the junkie problems, you just don't park anywhere near them. Where's the other no-go zone? The suburbs. The suburbs are your fucking enemy. It is absolutely your fucking enemy. And you know why? For the same reason you don't want to park near a church parking lot during any time there's people around. Unless you're going to church. And the answer for that is people pay good money for their houses in the burbs. They don't want to see your ass there. That's just it. Shopping zones and industrial zones are your friend. The outskirts, where there's kind of vacant areas, these are your friends. The burbs have people that are already thinking, you got a bunch of losers living in the burbs that pay their mortgage and pay their overpriced cars. These are people that look, I remember how many times I'd be chilling out reading a book or something in my van and some motherfucker would look back. They would purposely look at me and make sure their car's locked. I remember one time I opened the window and going, honey, that's a Ford Explorer. Nobody wants to steal that. Get fucking real. And she got all offended and grabbed. She was a Karen, and before Karens were a word or a thing, she grabbed kids, get in the car, get in the car. Hell, there was one time I was minding my own business in my van, and some bitch walked by. And she totally took her girl, and she looks up and says, see, honey, she's talking to her daughter, icky. And the window was open. I'm like, honey, your girl's going to grow up to be a superficial sack of shit, just like mom. Like, she's going to grow up to be a bigot. Mind you, these are the same people that would be out there protesting ICE. These people are fucking cancer. But look, here's how things go down. if you're parked in the wrong spot and they feel a certain way, we feel threatened, they will call the cops. And the cops will show up, smacking their mag light against your glass of your vehicle, light enough not to break it, but like boom, 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 boom. And why? Because some Karen felt uncomfortable or some rich person felt uncomfortable. You try to avoid these places. There are times where places I used to camp have been ruined by other people. And I'll be like, there's this place out there on the West Coast near Freshwater Bay. And I parked on the little sliver of land on the side of the road where I could get away with it. Because the clear cuts I used to park up there up on the hill now have a giant logging gate in the way. Mind you, they've managed to make it to where you can get little Jeeps through and side-by-sides, which that fucking shit pisses me off, by the way. I think they should ticket every motherfucker with a side-by-side or motorized vehicle beyond those gates. Oh, wait a minute, man. No, I was out there camping like a normal person back in the day. I was cleaning up garbage up there in my favorite camp spots. Now I can't go there, but some rich cocksucker can go up into those places with his side-by-side. That guy could suck my dick. Those are the people who advocated for the gates, and then they make a little bypass. You can't get a normal vehicle. You can't drive your normal car, your normal van. You could probably get a 4x through there. So we all got to order a Jeep or a 1-ton. That's what pisses me off about what happens. And part of the problem is when the rich people feel uncomfortable. So a lot of places I used to camp, there's places I have camped where I would have never. Oh, let me take care of your problem here. Let me put you in timeout. Have fun in timeout, dipshit. Y'all ask why I'm such an asshole to people. You get an asshole to me, I'm an asshole back to you. By the way, that's why the parameters are set now. You're like, why do we have all these laws? Because 2% of the population cause all the fucking problems. But seriously, if you're going to go out in van life and camp, then what you need to do is you need to basically learn your zone. You need to learn, hey, where's your industrial zones? Where's your warehouse districts? Where's your kind of side off areas? And like I said in the beginning of this, the golden ticket, if you're going to do van life, if you got a buddy in town or somebody that, like an elderly person, like let's say you go to church and somebody needs help with something, and you could do a trade where you take care of their yard and maybe you help them get groceries and they let you park your vehicle on the backside of their property. Fucking golden, man. Because then you're helping someone out in the community. So if anybody tries to say anything about it, you're like, well, I didn't see you helping them mow their lawn, or I didn't see you helping them do this or that. And now you're helping them, they're helping you. You're going to working a real ass job. By the way, here's another pro tip. Do not show up with your van life setup to a job interview. If anybody asks how you got there, just tell them you took an Uber or some shit. You know? I've had people say, well, I'm a trucker, and I've had companies that are like, well, where do you live? I'm like, wherever the terminal is, I just get a place. Well, what's your address? I'm like, I just get a post office box. Well, where do you live? I'm like, I'm usually in the truck, or I just go out and van life it on the weekends. That's where they get weird. Because a lot of companies want to know that you have bills to pay so they can have a big fat thumb on your existence. But when you got a good job and you're not paying rent in the cities, you're not paying utilities, you're not getting fucked on all these bills, it doesn't take long for you to have a whole lot of money. And then people talk about, like, you could find cheap land all over America. No joke. Just go on Google Maps, go to the Midwest, go to a place like Kansas and just pick a random town and start looking for cheap properties. Now, hypothetically, let's say you're in high school right now and you're learning a trade. Let's say you're out of high school and learning a trade. Plumber, electrician. Hey, that's a lot of money you could save by being that guy. So you work hard in one area, making a lot of money, and then basically when you're certified to do whatever you want, you can go wherever you want, assuming that you can transfer your license to another state. Maybe within your state. And by the way, this is another thing. Some states aren't worth van lifing in my opinion, during the winter, unless you have an insulated situation and a heating situation. So the money's got to be good enough. That's part of the reason I recommend trucking too. I can work trucking in a northern climate. I've slept in this van when it was like, probably 10 degrees outside, 10, 15 degrees. Would I do it regularly? Fuck no. Shit, out here in the wasteland, occasionally it gets down into the teens. I can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. I also wouldn't recommend van lifing in this area during the summer. It's too fucking hot. By the way, this is part of the reason you have such a plethora of whether it's van lifers or just fucking people that can't afford apartments, so they're on the streets on the West Coast. Because the West Coast, I lived, basically, you could look across the water, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and see Canada. You can see Vancouver Island. What am I getting at with that? I lived in the woods for 4 years. Lived just fine. So it's not cold enough to kill you up there. If you have a brain in your head, you get a decent sleeping bag. You don't even have to have a heating system up north. The one thing I will warn you about on the West Coast is this up here will collect water. Your breath will become water. Things will become damp. You'll be hitting up dryers. You'll be dealing with all sorts of little minor issues. But if the money's good, no bills, like I was a garbage man. This is like, God, is it 15, 20 years ago? 15 years ago at least? Yeah, 15, 20 years ago. I was making 13 something an hour back then when I started. I was making 17 an hour when I paid off my house. I was making goddamn good money and I wasn't paying rent. So the trick of it is that if you can find some place to park in a city where you got to deal with the person, or you pay this much to park there or whatever, and you can get people to not hassle you. If you can park in a place in the city, hide your van the best you can. That way there isn't some city official or anybody fucking around. If you can find dark spots at night, places where you drive in there at night, you park at night, and then basically in the morning before the sun comes up, you go to work. Do that. And you change your spot every night. Some places on the weekend, you might stay a couple nights. Like, you show up there Friday night, maybe you're there all weekend. I was that elemental force in certain spots where people knew better. They're like, that's that crazy guy in the van. By the way, being the crazy guy in the van has its advantages. People talk and they're like, no, that guy's a little off. And if people think you're just a little off, they ain't fucking with you. I don't smile that often naturally. When I'm bumming change, you better believe I'm smiling. Put on that big fake car salesman smile, shaking my ass. But normally I'm a large. You remember Final Fantasy, the original one? You remember that green ogre? Straight up. I'm a green ogre. Big lumbering thing, big Shrek-like motherfucking individual. People don't fuck with you. But you move every night. Because you got to remember, you might be on someone's property. You leave the property cleaner than you found it. And you just switch spots. And then you get to the weekends, and you go party out in the county. And on the way back, you don't waste a day at a good spot in town. You're already going to drive back anyways. You just get up a little earlier, and you leave from the midpoint in the county. Then you get back, you're in town for 4 days. You've got 20 or 30 spots, let's say 15 to 30 spots in town, and you only need to use 4 of them. Weekends, you're partying in the county. And if you happen to do this with trucking, buddy, you just got the golden ticket. Free apartment on wheels. They've got inverters that can run air fryers, microwaves, and everything. They pay you to live in the vehicle. Do they pay you? They used to pay you per diem. I don't think they do per diem anymore. I've heard you can do per diem. You need to get a good tax account if you're going to be in trucking. Point of it is that when you get back, you've been out for a week or two, maybe 3 weeks in the truck, traveling the country. You got 3-4 days off, hop in your van. Hey, there's that lake you like fishing at. There's that place you like camping here or there. Hey, maybe it's the right weekend and there's a medieval fair, there's a jazz festival. You just go party there. It's a wonderful life if you know how to do it. But most people are domesticated to the point of failure, and the only thing they understand is, well, you know, that's weird. That's weird. We can't do it. Oh yeah, by the way, how do you deal with bathrooms? Okay, showering, these days it's a golden age. You live in a town that has a decent gym. Either a 24-hour gym or they're open at reasonable hours. What about if you need to use the bathroom, when you get up in the morning? You're going to go to the grocery store to buy yourself some food. Why don't you just go there? Go to the grocery store, get yourself some food. And then use the bathroom there. Gas stations. When I was trucking, I'd park on a side street. I'm like, okay, there's a gas station or a McDonald's. There's another one. You get up in the morning, you're going to go get yourself a sausage McMuffin, with the add-ons that you like. Go use their bathroom. But what's the point? You don't need most of society. When you need a shower, like when I was a trucker, obviously every time I fuel up, I get shower points. And after so many gallons per month, I get unlimited showers. But you can do it that way, or if you happen to be in the city, you got a gym. Sometimes and by the way, if you're out in the county, get with nature, brother. Like, get with nature? What do you mean? What do you mean? That's weird. Like, here's the thought. You're out in the middle of nowhere, there's a creek, get a fucking rag and wash your nuts. It's not complicated. Get a bucket of water. Out here I use a third of a gallon per bath, and I recycle what's left of the bath water for the backwoods bidet. So I wash my body, then I wash my ass with the leftover water later. I use the little squirt bottle deal, and I'm like, saves on toilet paper, saves on everything. Like, I barely use that stuff up there. The only thing I really use that for is, when you shake when you get done pissing, there's always a dribble. That's where I use a little toilet paper for. Just a little bit. There ain't nothing worse, you just get done pissing. And you shake it out, and then there's just a couple little drips. And you're like, yeah, gee, thank you. I really wanted that in my underwear. So you just use a little bit of toilet paper. Takes care of the problem. Laundry mats. Rivers, a bucket of water in the middle of nowhere. It's the right time of year. You're out camping for a week or so out in the middle of nowhere. Fuck going to town. You bought enough vodka, you got enough weed, you got enough whatever you need. And you just do your laundry wherever you're at and then set up a clothesline. And you think about it from this perspective. If I got to go into town, I got to deal with going into town. So I'm going to go into town. I got to load up all my stuff, my water bottles, my everything, my whatever. Then I got to go and, go buy all this, buy all that. So when you go into town, you go in with the objective of basically getting everything you need. And so, yeah, at that point, it's a run. I'd hit up the food banks, all of them, on the same day. In fact, if I'm driving by multiple areas, I might hit up every town and every fucking food bank on the way north. Load up on canned goods, load up on dried goods, eat the fresh stuff that I get as I get it. Here's those times you're living off vegetables and pies. And I'm kind of a connoisseur of multiple food banks. And then when I get to a place I'm going to be at for a few months, I've got a mountain of canned goods and dried goods. Then before you go out into the woods or the waste, for however you're going to be out there for a while, you go out and buy basically a bunch of staples, a bunch of essentials. And you get to some nice place like out in the woods. Fuck if I want to leave. I was at that place near the power lines out there in the West Twin area. I was picking up a lot of good TV stations in the middle of goddamn nowhere, by the way. Had pretty decent internet. And it wasn't great internet, but it was good enough to stream. And I was out there, and I bushwhacked a trail into this little woods. It wasn't like the major creek, but it was a feeder creek. And it was late in the season. It was August. It was actually September at that point. I had bummed my way all the way from the Rocky Mountain area, where I have the house, up into the Montanas, Eastern Washington. I zigzagged all over the place. And I was like, I made like $300 here, $200 there. Maybe I was lazy that day, only made $100. Some places I just didn't feel the vibe, and I looked around the town. I'm like, I don't want to bum this. It's too greasy. I ended up with like $3,000 or $4,000 by the time I got over to the West Coast. Full tank of gas. I was eating McDonald's on the regular for free. And then when I get to some place, I load up on supplies, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm just going to do my laundry in the creek. You know, bucket of water, stream safe soap. You know, let it dry on the line. You know those giant transmission lines? You know the big towers they have there? I set up my laundry line on the transmission line there. The power company was coming through there, and they're kind of looking over, and I'm like, what? What? You need to climb these? They're like, no, not right now. We just thought that was interesting. Because they saw my shirts, the like orange shirts, the multicolored shirts, hanging on the fucking power lines. Not on the lines themselves, but the big giant metal transmission towers. But yeah, man. I recommend if you're going to do van life, if you're going to be in the city, best thing to do is, yes, get a place you can pay somebody to park in their backyard. That way, and make sure your van is hidden, so if any officials or anything try to show up. I had one buddy who was living in a trailer next to his dad's diesel shop, and he said, there's like, you can't live in this location. He's like, I'm the night watchman. They're like, good answer. Be the night watchman. Even have the person that's there tell them, yeah, this is my night watchman. I've had people breaking into my place. I've had people stealing stereos and car ornaments. I'm the night watchman. And once you're the night watchman officially, they can't say shit. And this trailer is my office. Not always, but generally they can't say shit. You know? And then the other one is, if you park, learn your spots. Don't park any place that's too normal, too residential. You want industrial zones, commercial shopping districts, and forgotten places. Quiet, dark, forgotten places. And some places that might be kind of in residential, but not really, kind of like, on the outskirts, show up right after dark. Or after dark and leave before the sun comes up. I mean, hell, earlier this year, I was in this forest next to a park that I grew up in. It was dark, and I'm like, gotta take a quick bath. Because I had a bucket bath. I'm like, scrubba, scrubba, scrubba. I'm like, yep, before the sun comes up. Because I don't want to fucking stink when I'm going shopping. But it's not hard. It's not hard to do. It's just a matter, and you got to be into the mobile lifestyle. And that's why part of the reason, if you get just sick of like being in the city, go out to the county. Spend a week out in the county or 2 weeks out in the county. If you can. But yeah, man, I mean, I highly recommend van life. I know it's not for everybody, but, like, look, man, if your rent is 12, like, say on the West Coast, $1,500 a month, plus utilities, let's just say $2,000 after utilities and all the bullshit. Well, 2,000 times 12 is 2,400. And then the other money you're not pissing away. You end up, if you're making like, say, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, let's just say you're making on the low end 40, 50, 60. How long is it going to take you to save up money to where you can go pay cash for something? How long is it going to take for you to basically be able to go and to the Midwest and pay cash for a house? Now, when I say 40, 50, 60, that's the low end. And mind you, when I drive truck, I make 80 to 100K a year and live off 5,000. So when I run into all these people that are all like, yo, what do you make for money? I make more money because you spend more money to live. Do you understand it? Let me repeat that. I make more money because you spend more money to live. And if you can't comprehend that, and by the way, whoever's doing a little facey thing in the chat, if you want to say something, just be a subscriber. And if you're trying to say something but you can't, maybe you were an asshole and that's why all you could do is act like a ghost in the chat. See what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. But for the fools and morons out there, they can't handle what I'm telling you. They can't. They can't handle it because basically their attitude is like, well, I got a house. No, you don't. You got a mortgage. Fuck, most of you probably got a rental. You got a rental. Bitch, please, you don't own shit. You don't own shit. And the reason you don't own shit is because of the way you think. You can go out and pay all that money out if you want. It's your choice. It is your choice. But you try to clown on other people when you're broke. And then what I'm doing, I have 80 to 85K every year that I can invest. And let me put that in perspective for you, those that can understand basic mathematics. What is 10% of 100,000? $10,000. I live off $5,000 a year. In 1 year, I can effectively make enough to where I can live for the rest of my fucking life. Now, let's say I do that for 5-6 years. Then you got like $500,000 making you money. Let's say $500,000 at 10%. And that's a paltry 10%. That is the most basic bitch level of money. You're talking more like 25% right now in the industry, in the market. So 10% would be $50,000 that you made for doing nothing. So, I mean, you want to live normal, you want to pay that mortgage, you want to pay that rent, you want to pay those utilities. Now, the bitches will want you to do that. But the bitches will run you into the ground. They'll run you like a workhorse straight into the ground. And then they'll walk on to some other guy. Fair enough. That's the game. You should know what you're playing. But if you don't want to be just a useful idiot for some corporate entity or your government, and you want to get somewhere in life, try van life. Try driving a truck. Trucking won't be around forever, but if there's a gold mine out there and you can go get the gold right now, why not take the gold? So basically what I've taught you here, what all the free knowledge I've given you here, I've given you the ability to change your fucking future. You could make a legacy level of wealth. You could literally be the things you dream of being from what I've just taught you. And I didn't charge you a fucking dime for that shit. It's your choice what to do with it. But for the most part, I'm going to be honest. Most people are pearls before swine. That's part of, by the way, this is part of the reason, I'm just going to throw it out there. You know why the 1% exploit you? It's not because they're evil, it's because they're tired. They're tired of trying to build a better world. Not all of them. Some of them are just sacks of shit. We can see that with the Epstein files, for instance. There's a lot of good people out there that did a lot of great things. And once they made it, the first people to backstab them were their own. The first person to put a knife in their back was some broke motherfucker they grew up with that never did a damn thing to improve themselves. And when people come back and they're like, hey, this is the strategy I used, they'll always be like, well, I guess you were lucky. You were lucky. Fuck you. Van life is a strategy. Going out and getting a good degree is a strategy. A good trade, even if it's trucking. Living cheap is a strategy. Poor people believe everything's luck. People who make it know one major thing. It's knowledge, strategy, and implementing what you can do. The good opportunities don't show up to you if you don't have the ability to do anything with it. So it's up to you what you want to do with it. But like I said, pearls before swine for the most part. Anyhow, this is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. Of course the market's going to crash. I'll answer this question because you actually subscribed. Of course the market's going to fucking collapse. Are you kidding me? It'll collapse, and that's the best thing that could happen. Right now, we're in a housing slump. I'll just answer this question, and I'm being nice about it. The market will crash, and you will buy when the market crashes. You will buy when the market crashes because it'll be cheaper. Let's say a bunch of people are losing their McMansions or it's just raw property. Why would you pay the increased rate when you could get it for cheap? The market crashes anywhere from 8 to 12 years. It's practically planned out. The rise and fall of the market is a regular thing. The housing market right now is suppressed. It's actually a bad housing market. Right now, if you want to buy land, it's actually a good market to buy land in because that is a slump. Now, when the market takes a dip, okay, let me throw this out to you. I know a lot of people can't comprehend this, but you run into a lot of people out there that they think there's like some magic trick to the market, but there's a lot of things that people are going to use. People are going to use Procter and Gamble. People are going to use diapers. People are still going to be buying cigarettes, even though it's a declining group of people. The popularity of cigarettes has gone down. People are still going to buy beer. Like, for instance, Budweiser is not out of the game. Dylan Mulvaney made Budweiser look stupid, and a bunch of people temporarily stopped dealing with Budweiser. So Budweiser stock takes a dip. Did Budweiser stock go right back to what it was normally? Yep. The market takes a crash. Those with the money take their money and buy in when it's cheap. And then the market goes right the fuck back up. You go back into the history of even the Great Depression. The people that lost everything because they were freaking out. They were panic selling. Those who actually either stayed in, rode the wave, some of them lost a lot of money. But then eventually those who actually had some money near the low points when things start going up, they bought things that were traditional, that were going to go up, like oil, gas, whatever. They made a fucking killing. That's the same thing. If you don't have extra money, you don't have any sort of thing, you don't have yourself figured out, you can't do anything with that market. The market will rise and the market will fall. It's not complicated. But the people who lose are the people who panic sell, and the people who make money. It's like Warren Buffett generally said, when people are panicking, it's a good time to buy. And if it's something traditional that's going to be used in the future, like let's say Apple has some catastrophe, something that makes them look horrible, and then a bunch of dumb people panic sell. Do you think Apple's going anywhere? Do you think Google's going anywhere? I'm not giving stock advice, but I'm telling you common sense. There's a lot of things in this world that are going to be around long after we're dead. It'll change shape, it'll change names, but people are still going to need refrigerators. People are still going to need cars and vehicles or something. They're going to need something. People are still going to need electrical wiring. There's a lot of staples that will always be necessary. And if a company takes a dip, or the economy takes a dip, look, if the economy takes a dip and you've got money, you got money to invest, brother. Whether it's land, vehicles, like when everybody else is losing their ass, that's a great time to get a pickup truck. That's a great time to get an RV. Hey, that boat you've always kind of been thinking about, wait till someone's losing their shirt and they're just happy to be able to get rid of that stuff to keep their mortgage going. Whether they have it in 3 or 4 more months with their horrible economic plan is a different story. But the fact that they can keep it, they'll sell off that Bayliner at a reasonable price. They'll sell off their Harley. Somebody else's purposely structured misfortune can be your advantage. Don't ever feel bad about that. Remember, they were the ones that self-fucked themselves in that situation. All you're doing is showing up. You're like, here's what I'll pay for this. You should always be willing to make a buck if you can. And that's part of the reason, if you go out and I'm going to end it with this. If you go out and drive truck, you be truck, live in the truck, and also have a van life situation, or a person, maybe you live in a town and you got a family member and you help take care of their place when you're back. You're only there every couple weeks or so. Just come back, mow your mom's lawn or some shit like that, or whatever, family member. You come back and you do that. You're making God tier money comparatively to most people. Because most people, they have maybe a few thousand at the end of the year. Oh, we're doing well. We have a little emergency fund of like 15,000. Most people couldn't even dream of 15,000. As a trucker van lifer, you're like, well, I've got 85,000 this year to do whatever with and invest. Who's winning? You are, if you just do the strategies. And because not everybody else will do it, that's why you'll do so well. Most people are so addicted to the comfort, they'll never do it. But you invest when you're young. Hell, even gold and silver. Let me give you an example. In the late 90s, early 2000s, gold was about what? $260 to $300 per ounce. Now it's worth over $4,500. A lot of that's just inflation. Part of it is the rest of the world wants to get gold, and the other part is inflation. Now, would I buy gold right now? Probably not. I'd rather buy land than gold. I can do something with land. I want raw land. You know, something I can maybe grow some vegetables and save on rent, save on camping, have a campsite here, have a campsite there. Point is that would I value, if I could get gold cheap, would I get it? Yeah. Hell, if I could go out and, go get one of those old claims. I've known old guys that do that, where they go out and they have their RV and they go to an old gold mining area and they just sift through the tailings. And they end up finding quite a bit that was just gold that was missed back when they were there, when the original miners were there. There's opportunities everywhere if you just know how to save your money. You save your money, then you can actually access opportunities. But yeah, everybody's got to do their own, but that's some of the tactics I've used over the years. And this video is way longer than I intended, so y'all take it easy.